welcome everyone to our newest video. Are AI tools like ChatGPT helping students learn or no? Well, in this debate, you're gonna find out. We're gonna hear from the pro side and the con side here. Let's go ahead and hear these introductions and let's begin this debate. Like and subscribe if you haven't already.
I'm Henry. I'm from Nevada, and I hope to enter law school in a couple of years.
Hi, my name is Alexis. I'm from North Carolina, and I hope to, in a few years, I guess, either go to business school or to law school.
My name is Massa. I'm from California, and I hope to work in the medical field when I'm older.
Hi, my name is Vivia. I am from the state of Maryland, and I am aspiring to be a veterinarian.
Get your notes out if you haven't already. So we're gonna go ahead and begin. We'll start with the opening statements. Pro side first, followed by con side. Thanks again for being here, and let's have a great debate. So, pro side, you have the floor. Tell us why AI tools like ChatGPT help students learn.
Hi, today my partner Henry and I are here to defend the argument that AI tools like ChatGPT are helping students learn and do not promote laziness. Like technology, education continues to evolve over time and adapt to the modern world. From calculators to the rise of computers and the development of artificial intelligence, every new innovation has transformed the way students learn. AI technologies are a remarkable scientific development that comes with great promise. One of those promises is the ability to create a more balanced and equal education system. Education as we know it has always been influenced and even limited by financial inequality. Whether to the access to tutoring, additional resources, and or opportunities for advancement, individuals with greater financial means are often able to perform better because they have the tools needed for that growth. The two sigma study problem done by Benjamin Bloom in 1984 showed that compared to traditional bell curve 101 tutoring of the students improved students from the middle of the bell curve, which is considered the average range for students, to 2 standard deviation steps of growth. And according to the National Center of Education Statistics, or the NSHSS, 86% of U.S. K-12 public schools have reported challenges in hiring, and 45 have reported staffing shortages. AI tools like ChatGPT help close the educational gap by providing support at no cost. They offer accessible assistance for students of all backgrounds, tutoring, personalized feedback, and in-depth explanations of core subjects provided through by step-by-step explanations. Thank you.
Henry?
So I'm just gonna go through 3 main points here. The first is AI brings personalized learning, that is help students tailor information how it is best accessible for them in a way that they can best understand. If a student is struggling to understand concepts when taught from a teacher or even a potential tutor, AI can explain them in a different way that might help the students better understand. And this allows a lot of students who normally would have nowhere to go in the education system. It lets them understand things that otherwise they wouldn't be able to. Second point is AI provides immediate feedback. It can be used essentially as a tutor. You can have it give you study guides, practice problems, things along those lines, and you can use it to receive instantaneous feedback on your work, no matter what it is. This is a big step up compared to the more standard tutoring teacher options, office hour options, considering as always there, it is free, it is constantly available, and it works just the same as the tutor would. It provides you that feedback that you need. And then my final point, a lot of the negative ideas surrounding AI are based on how individuals and companies have repeatedly tried to force it into education. Instead of trying to look, how can we fit AI? How can we force AI to go in here? We need to look at our goals, the goals of education as a whole, and then use AI to better achieve those goals. And obviously, the goal for education that we should all agree on is allowing the largest amount of students possible to understand a concept, and AI helps that come to pass. Without it in education, a smaller amount of students will be able to understand concepts. That is just a fact. Those are my 3 main points.
Thank you. Con side, it's your turn. Why do you think AI tools might actually hurt the learning process?
So I would like to say that artificial intelligence harms the learning process. For instance, the experimental learning process developed by David Kolb suggests that there are 4 key elements in learning. What I want to specifically focus on is the concrete experience. When students turn to AI, it robs them of that experience, concrete experience, by instead telling them what they need to know instead of letting them work through it. Additionally, AI can promote laziness in students because it is biological that humans sort out the path of least resistance. So when AI is provided, students are more likely to use it to complete their work for them instead of learning from it. Lastly, I'd like to focus that AI can introduce fallacies and bias because research has shown that AI is biased by its program. So it is more likely to lead a certain way. And also, additionally, because it takes information from several different sources, it can sometimes combine all this information in a way that is incorrect. And because it is often like Google's Gemini AI, the first thing that students accept this as true and ends up harming their learning experience.
Melissa?
So I think AI is detrimental to students' not only education but also their mental health for 5 main reasons. First of all, it promotes laziness among students. So a recent video released by the MSNBC shows students' frustration with their peers because their peers are using AI to write their essays. And this kind of creates an unfair advantage between the students because students who don't use AI are using their own creativity, their own work, their own thinking and actual thought process is going into these essays. But for students who are using AI, they're just basically plagiarizing or using AI to do the work for them, which creates an unfair advantage. The second reason is that it hinders critical thinking skills. So on average, students who use AI are not actively engaging with the material. They're just copying off of the chatbot into their assignments, which does not promote creativity and does not really challenge themselves. In addition, my third reason is that it decreases creativity. It causes creativity to stifle among students because, like my previous point, they're not really engaging with the material. They're just basically using AI and asking AI to write out things for them. Sure, there are students who use AI as inspiration or for reference, but the majority of students will tend to use it as a shortcut and will tend to use it as a way to just get work done quickly or last minute. Then my fourth point, which was basically just having AI do the work for them and using it as a shortcut. Also, they just use it as a scapegoat. So basically, if they're trying to do an assignment and they can't get any ideas online, they'll just use AI and be like, oh, there was no other sources to use online, which is not true. There's plenty of sources. You can ask your peers, teachers, or just even read books like the old-fashioned way because that is better for our brains. And then the fifth point is that it's dangerous to mental health. AI can sometimes be misleading and provide false information, and it can also promote negative stereotypes, and it can also promote harmful behaviors.
Thank you for both sides for those really strong stances. Now that we have the opening statements, let's dive deeper. Pro side, how do tools like ChatGPT make learning more efficient or effective compared to traditional study methods?
I can answer. Um, as far as efficiency goes, as I said earlier, it's simply faster and it's always available. You can access AI 24/7. It's not something like a tutor where it might be more difficult. You might have to wait. It's not like that. So as far as efficiency goes, it simply beats human tutors. The other thing I was going to mention is it's completely free. A good amount of study guides, even practice tests, things along those lines, you do have to pay for. But AI is completely free. You can access these things. AI can sort of engineer the best way for you to study for you, tailor towards you, and it's all free, which is a great new thing in education that really hasn't been available before. And sort of as Alexis mentioned, this allows students who are lower income to transcend that and be able to reach these educational goals without having to go into debt or just simply not being able to because they can't afford it.
Alexis, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, just like Henry is talking, I think AI, the use of AI as a tool is important because not only like he has reiterated that it's at a gratuitous cost that is free for everybody. AI is more efficient because I think it provides 24/7 help. It personalizes learning for every student depending on the way they learn. It doesn't really like show it one way; it can show it multiple ways. It's available 24/7. So if you really need the help last minute, you can call a teacher at 3 a.m. in the morning, but you can reach out to tools like AI tools like ChatGPT to help you. Either just reinforce the topics or simply learning as you go. But I think it's also just something apart from traditional systems. Traditional systems, I don't want to say that they're outdated, but it's really difficult to grab a book and learn from a book. When you have other things going on in life, especially with the current political climate and economy, most students have to juggle a job and multiple stuff, like extracurriculars, jobs, clubs, sports, and going home and having to read 20 chapters of a book rather than being able to get a short summary of the book that will help you, I think is more helpful as a tool. Thank you.
Thank you, pro side. And now the con side. Con side, what's your perspective? Does AI risk replacing effort or critical thinking instead of supporting it?
To start off, I'd like to sort an MIT research study in which researchers found that reduced neural engagement in students who used AI for writing tasks compared to those who relied on their memory. So I do believe that using AI can, like I said earlier, rob students of concrete experience, which is the effort of going through work yourself. Like, for instance, in math, you have to work through a problem step by step through yourself. However, with the use of AI, that can limit your ability to actually experience that struggle and therefore limits your learning. Additionally, what Henry said about the AI working towards the individual, being tailored towards the individual, that also links to what is known as echo chambers with AI, in which the information that you put out, it spits back in related content, and it can limit what you learn by making less diverse, taken from less diverse sources and limiting to a certain viewpoint, which can, because ultimately to learn more, you need to consider other perspectives that do not match your own. And AI will not allow that because it wants to customize it to you.
Masa, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes. So going back to what the pro side said about accessibility, I think accessibility can be beneficial, but I think it's also a negative thing as well, because if AI is easily accessible to all students, then it can actually promote procrastination, because then they'll think, well, if AI can just write my essay for me in like 3 minutes for free, then why should I do it now? They might just leave it off until like midnight or something instead of doing it earlier. So not using AI can actually help them to do their work earlier and actually do it in a timely and orderly fashion, and will actually help them develop time management skills. But AI being able to just do things in a matter of seconds will basically promote laziness among students and will actually encourage them to do their work in a not so orderly fashion. In addition to that, an MIT study actually found that AI does lead to lower levels of brain engagement and lower neural activity. In this study, 54 participants who were aged 18 to 39 years old were divided into 3 groups, where one group had to use ChatGPT to write several SAT essays. One group had to use Google search engines only to write SAT essays, and one group had to use nothing at all and only their own creativity to write the essays. And so using an EEG, which is an electroencephalogram, researchers found that students who used nothing actually had highest levels of brain activity while they were writing, because they were actively engaging with the material. They were actually thinking and developing problem-solving skills along the way, and having to basically use their own creativity to write the essays. But meanwhile, students who used ChatGPT basically just copy and pasted, so they did not have to engage with the material, and they had the lowest levels of brain activity. So I think even though accessibility is an advantage, could be an advantage in that it's like free and helpful, there's also other resources that are accessible, such as YouTube videos or free online tutors that could actually help you understand the material in a better way rather than just copying off of AI.
Thank you, both pro and con, for those words. Many argue that AI can skip the research phase, like the con team just said, the part of learning where students explore, analyze, and form ideas themselves. Pro side, is using AI just a new form of research or something important being lost?
I think the use of AI as any form of research, the AI is the new form of research. As our opponents argue, it can lead to procrastination, but procrastination happens when you feel struck, overwhelmed, or even stressed. And unsure of where to start, unsure of what tools you can use or you have at your disposal. AI tools, like ChatGPT and others, break tasks and into manageable steps. It helps you reduce if you have a great topic such as wars or problems or something like that. AI can help you shorten those steps, can help you shorten that research phase. Most of the times, the research is the biggest part of a project, and when you are able to research that, you normally have time to do a better project. AI reduces the procrastination instead of prompting it, laziness, because it turns avoidance into action. Thank you.
Henry, would you like to add anything to that or no?
Yeah, I just like to say AI is best described as a tool, and a tool can be used negatively or positively. You can use a screwdriver to screw in a screw, or you could use it to kill somebody. That doesn't make the screwdriver good or bad. It's just a tool. And I think that's the best way to look at AI. The fact that some students might use AI to write essays for them does not mean that it as a whole should be banned. The fact is, it can be used in a way that can help students and that can help students learn, especially disadvantaged students. And if it were to be banned all because some particular students who would find a way to cheat anyways are using AI to cheat, it's just not rational. The fact is, the lazy students, the idea that AI promotes laziness, these people will be lazy either way, whether they use AI or not. The AI doesn't cause the laziness. It's just this particular manifestation of it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. Con side, do you think relying on AI weakens problem solving skills or independent thinking?
I would like to say that it does. I'd specifically like to quote cognitive psychologist Lisanne Brainbridge, who said that when we allow automation to handle what we consider regular tasks, it leaving humans for out of the ordinary situations. It decreases our ability to handle these outside of the norm situations because they are not well practiced. Because to be familiar with more difficult problems, we must first be difficult with simple ones. So when we turn to AI to help us expand and learn, and instead completing the part of the process of struggle, it leads us overall to struggle more greatly when it becomes more difficult. Additionally, I want to talk about the positive feedback loop that it creates. When students offload work to artificial intelligence, they've experienced the ease of it. Now, procrastination and laziness, I do want to differentiate them quickly. Procrastination is a response to stress. Laziness is a feeling in which you don't want to do something. That is more chosen than procrastination. When students offload their work and they've experienced the ease of it, the struggle to complete the work on their own is more difficult. So each time they go back to AI, the actual process of doing the work themselves becomes more difficult. And through this positive feedback loop, students lose some of the learning and some of the ability to handle problems on their own.
So I want to go back to the point about AI being a helpful tool. I do also agree that AI can be helpful, but a common term used in psychology to describe the human mind is cognitive misers. So basically, this term means that humans tend to use what's easier, what's basically more simpler for them to do at that moment. And so that's why AI being available will most likely more often be used in a negative way, because if AI can do something much more quickly than you can and it won't involve you thinking very much, then you will tend to choose the easier option. And so that's what tends to happen with most high school and college students, is that they tend to use AI to get things done quickly. So even though they can use AI as inspiration or for helpful purposes, they still tend to use it in a more negative manner because that's just what's easier for them to do. And that's just a simpler thing. Another thing about AI is that does diminish memory, because when you constantly use AI to start writing these prompts for you and do your work for you, it starts to actually worsen your memory. And so now, because you aren't having to engage your brain as much, it starts getting your brain used to being lazy, I suppose. Doesn't really like challenge your brain, and it does diminish critical thinking skills as well.
I wanted to add on to the tutoring and what Alexa said about not counting tutoring and situations like that as human interaction. I myself am a tutor at my own school, and I have actually grown very close with several of the students I've tutored. I've gotten to learn about their backgrounds. For instance, I have one student who I tutor who moved here from China and is working to an aspiring pediatric surgeon. So I do believe that tutoring is a form of social interaction, because any interaction between two people is social interaction. And I can say that as someone who has immense social anxiety, because even in situations as simple as going to a coffee shop and ordering a drink, I feel this sense of anxiety because I have to communicate with another person. So I do believe it counts as a social interaction. And adding on to what Masa said, about looking to your friends for help with work. I myself today, because I am in International Baccalaureate Math Analysis and Approach, and I was struggling with the topic. So just before this meeting, I spent about 2.5 hours going over our unit with this friend, because sometimes it is a very good option to look for a friend, because you can explain things in a way that is more obvious. Like you can use hand gestures, which I was using a lot, or you can draw it out on their paper, and it does bring this sort of greater understanding because we were struggling together. So when we eventually found an answer, it really felt like we understood what we were doing so we could prepare properly.
Would like to say it seems like my opponent or opponents are sort of looking at this as a false through a false dichotomy. That is, they think that either you use AI and use nothing else, or you don't use AI and have access to all these other resources. I'm not arguing for students who use AI to cheat, or for students who use AI as a replacement for for social interactions. That's not what I'm arguing for. I'm saying AI should be used as a supplement. You can have, or you should have, these in-person interactions with your friends, for example, to help better understand topics. AI is just an additional tool, an additional thing that can be added to your toolbox, to your educational toolbox, along with things like books and other websites and your friends and your teachers. It's just an additional thing that can help with your education. It's not meant to be a replacement for these other things. It's just meant to be a supplement.
Just like Henry said, I think the idea or the debate or the point debating being the AI, like Henry mentioned, that either you use it and you do nothing else, or you use it or you don't use it and you do everything by your own. But like we have argued throughout the debate, I think AI is a form of storm of ideas, and it's a way, or it's a tool, like we are arguing today, that doesn't need to be misused, because like we have said before, there have been parameters that has been created in order to stop the usage of AI fully just to do the work for you. I don't think I said directly that interactions like tutoring does not count as interactions. I do think they count as interactions. I just don't think that the main form of interaction is tutoring. I don't think that the first thing I do when I wake up is call my tutor and say, how was your day? Or, hey, can you keep helping with that problem? But I think that it's a minimal part of your school journey. While interaction with your friends on the daily are more affected by technology like phones, rather than AI or ChatGPT, because I don't go to ChatGPT to say, hey, how can I say my friend good morning? When, normally when you create a friendship or a bond with someone, you have your special way of saying hi or welcoming them or greeting them. And like we have argued, you know, throughout the debate, AI, it's a technology that is continuously evolving. Just like the internet was once new to older generations, and they used to use books, and then Google became a thing, and they thought, oh, if they use Google, they'll get the answer right away. But now, we use Google, and well, now we use AI. But before there was AI or artificial intelligence, we used to use Google, and we never said that it was going to answer the problems for us or directly basically do the project for us. Google, just like AI, can become a form of a tool to be able to get your head straight, to get the stress out. Because just like AI, if you think about it, Google is literally an AI. It's a form where every research is published, and maybe you go directly to each one and click, but AI makes it easier. So it's a tool that you can use at your disposal to make life easier for you. Thank you.
Would anyone like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would like to respond back to what Henry and Alexis said. So I do agree that AI is a part of the toolbox and that it can be used as a supplement to education. However, it does, the problem with AI is that it directly gives you that answer. But meanwhile, with like websites or like YouTube videos, you have to search and you have to kind of like filter through each video or each website to determine if it has the right information that you need. And because AI directly provides the answer, it is the easier option, and therefore it is what students tend to gravitate towards. If AI can give me the answer in like 5 seconds, then why should I go to all these other sources? And when AI becomes an option or a very accessible option, it tends to what students gravitate towards. And so then that just becomes the thing that more students do. And I understand that AI can be used in positive ways as inspiration, but I would like to use a personal example where last week, as a student in the IB diploma program, we were like beginning our EE essays and like the process of brainstorming for our essays. And so the teacher did allow us to use AI for inspiration. She provided it as an option. But what I noticed most of my peers tended to do was that most of them tended to just search, write a thesis statement for this topic X Y Z, and then they just wrote they just had AI write that thesis statement for them, and they just copied it into the assignment box and just submitted it just like that, because they did that because that was the easier and more accessible option to them. And yes, they could have just used it for inspiration, but the majority of students will tend to do what is simpler. And it's also important to consider that most high schoolers and college students are in between 14 to like 25 years of age. And so at that time, our prefrontal cortex, which is the region of our brain involved in critical thinking and analysis, at that time, our prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. And therefore, our prefrontal cortex will make more emotional and less rational decisions, such as using AI to basically using AI as a shortcut for assignments. And so that becomes the more common option among younger people, because they're not thinking about how in the long run AI is going to hinder their critical thinking abilities and their memorization skills. They're just thinking about short term of, can I get this assignment done within the span of like 10 minutes?
Vivia, I noticed you had your hand raised. Would you like to add on to that?
Yeah, I would. I'd like to specify with the comparison to Google and AI. Because the greatest difference is AI takes what exists and creates a brief summary or an overview. That's why it's called an AI overview, or it creates an answer for you. When we Google things, we are finding digital sources, which is much different to it because you are finding things written by real people. When you go to a source on Google, that's something that someone had to type up. It's very similar to a digital library. That's why we often refer to the internet as such. So to compare them isn't very fair because AI takes from these sources and sometimes throughout this creation process gives you an output that is incorrect and is digitally made, while going to Google and searching the sources and reading them yourselves provides you a chance to analyze them yourself, to annotate them and understand what the actual person was saying. And as for creation of thesis statements, like Masa said. I've also experienced several students doing that when working on their history IAs, where they have looked to AI to help complete that task for them because it is simply easier. Now, I do agree with the pro side that AI can be a tool for learning. I have used AI before to help myself learn by explaining or breaking down a problem when it was worded in a way I couldn't understand. However, I believe that the argument is more focused on its detrimental effects and implementing it in a greater sense because in the end it does promote laziness, and while it does have the ability to be used for great things, um, students will often choose the easy way out because it is biologically instituted into us that we take the path of least resistance. So I would like to add that to the discussion.
Would anyone like to say anything else to that? Or we can move on to some more questions. Okay, so I guess we're going to move on now. AI tools are imperfect and can sometimes provide wrong or misleading information. Pro side, how can students use AI responsibly and still ensure the information is correct?
Start with this one. The thing is, a human tutor can also be biased and also be incorrect. This isn't a issue unique to AI. And the same advice that I would give someone if they're trying to fact check a person is it's the same when you're trying to fact check AI. If it says something and you're not sure if it's true or not, go and see if you can find additional reliable sources. And if there are additional reliable sources that say the same thing, then it's likely true. And if there's additional reliable sources that say something contrary, then it's likely that the AI is wrong. It's that simple.
You can go ahead and begin.
Okay. Well, I think no system of education is perfect. I think AI can be mostly unbiased because AI can reduce human bias in education. I think it provides all students with the same access to knowledge and technology. It provides fair feedback and personalized guidance. I believe that while it's true that AI is, a new technology, it's an evolving technology, it doesn't mean that it's harmful or, unhelpful. It means that we're on the early stages of an evolving technology, just like the internet or social media once were. The lack of strict regulations, it has been addressed in the educational value of AI. There has been things like Turnitin.com invented or programmed to be able to catch, just the uses of AI. So there has been action taken in order for AI to become a prompting of ideas, a prompting of help, rather than just a usage of it. Most of our opposing team argues that is, you just use to be able to write it or done the work for you. But I think that many educational institutions have already created UA usage policies that encourage ethical use while preventing misuse and plagiarism as well as over-reliance. Thank you.
Side, do you think too much trust in AI could make students less careful or critical when evaluating information?
I think that AI can definitely make students less critical in evaluating information because AI, what it does basically is that it basically takes information from a bunch of sources online and compiles it into a smaller summary or a shorter form for students to better understand. And the problem is that when it does this, it might sift through inaccurate information or inaccurate studies. So I feel like it's much more beneficial for students to actually go through websites on their own and evaluate on their own whether this website is a valid or credible source, rather than having AI compile information from websites like Wikipedia, which are known for being inaccurate, into a summary, which then leads to that summary being inaccurate. In addition, when students do their own research, it promotes their own creativity and their own critical thinking skills. And there's also other resources like YouTube videos, or for example, Khan Academy, which can be used as better resources that promote more critical thinking among students rather than AI. Because AI can make personalized summaries for students, but it's much more common that students will not use that shortened summary for good. And in addition, that shortened summary could also be inaccurate because it takes from possibly inaccurate sources. So when you look through each source on your own, you can actually be able to determine whether that source is a valid source.
Vivia, would you like to add on to that?
I would. First, I'd like to talk about the stages in which bias in AI can be introduced. It can be introduced in data collection, which is often where it originates, because if the data used to train an AI algorithm is not diverse or representative, the output will reflect these biases. So that can start as soon as the programming. Data labeling, the process of labeling training data can also introduce bias because human annotators may have different interpretations of the same data. So that's more human bias being put into AI bias. Model training, that's works the same way, but with all these steps, there is human bias, which the con side could argue, as has argued, that humans also introduce bias through teachers or tutors. However, we're more aware of humans introducing bias because we understand that other humans have different perspectives from us. However, because AI is technology and we often consider robots and automation to be emotionless and thoughtless, we often forget that it can have bias as well. Additionally, deployment, even if the creators of an AI attempt to be as unbiased as possible, AI can, upon being deployed, can be influenced by its users. And the creation of echo chambers, which I've talked about, in which what you ask of AI will be reflected and it'll become accumulated to what you want to know, and that can limit the diversity of what you know, and it creates a limit. Sorry, uh, it creates a barrier to how far you can expand your knowledge.
Thank you, both sides. We'll move on to the next set of questions. Pro side, can AI actually boost creativity by giving students ideas and inspiration?
As far as ideas, again, AI can sort of be used as a basis for research. It can provide, uh, you know, relevant data, relevant sources for a topic that you're trying to research. And from those sources, you can sort of expound and develop your own idea. I don't think anybody should rely on AI as a source of creativity, just as no one should rely on another person as a source of creativity. Creativity in any form should come from yourself and should be that's the whole point. Creativity is creating something new, something which doesn't exist yet. And that is why it has to come from you and it can't be coming from someone else or something else in the case of AI. So it, just as a tutor wouldn't be who you go to become creative or to boost your creativity, it's not the responsibility of AI to do that. AI's responsibility is to give you sources, give you a place to start, and from there you can sort of compile information and develop your own ideas. Thank you.
Alexis, would you like to add anything?
Yes, I would. I think that AI significantly boosts human creativity by expanding on a range of ideas. And just, like humans, if you go to a tutor, like Henry mentioned, they would probably also have, and they'll have trouble enabling rapid experimentation or rapid ideas, or, not as broad range as AI can provide. But I think AI can also help overcome mental blocks, which is the main reason why students normally leave assignments to the last minute. It's not because, AI can do it for them, but it's because they don't know how to start, they don't know how to begin, or they don't know where to start. Unlike traditional tools, AI can generate many concepts in seconds rather than days or weeks. It provides a novel of field combinations. It can also spark innovation by helping students be able to know, or at least helping students guide themselves to where they want their project to be. I think AI frees the human mind of all the worries that comes with how to start a project, which is always the hardest part, like I mentioned before. But I think it can also just boost originality. If you have an idea and you're able to come up with the concept, I believe that it's easier for you to be more original in a project or an essay or research if you just have that spark that ignites the fire. Thank you.
Thank you. Outside. Now we're going to move on to the con side. AI limit creativity by letting students rely too heavily on pre-generated ideas instead of thinking for themselves.
All right, I can start us off on this one. I do believe AI can limit creativity of individuals for several reasons. For starters, AI generated art has become increasingly popular, and there's been great debate over it because art naturally is a very human thing. It is an expression of human emotion. And so the idea that a robot technology could create it feels almost inhuman to many individuals. Additionally, the art that it makes isn't art that it itself has created, but rather a accumulation of several art pieces of art made by other individuals. So, because of this, it is just a plagiarism sort of collaboration of art. And then, as for writing, another creative field, AI prompts for stories often are taken from already existing stories with the same main idea. So when we go to AI to come up with prompts and ideas to begin a story, it causes the work that we create to be plagiarized, and it also limits what we can come up with ourselves. Because that's part of the most important part of art is struggling through and creating something that really speaks to other people. So when you go to technology for that, you lose that artistic value.
Yes, I definitely think that AI also does stifle creativity. And adding on to what Vivia said, it does compile information from a bunch of other places. And technically, that information has already been thought up of and created by other people. So when you're using AI to use ideas, the ideas that it gives you are not new ideas. They're ideas that other people have already thought up with. And also, just the notion of using AI to basically do art for you, or for example, use like for assignments and stuff is already just in itself like disproving the idea of originality, because originality is when you come up with something through your own struggles and through your own thought process, not when you ask something else to do it for you. And also recently there was a Coca-Cola ad released that was themed for the holidays, and it was a completely AI generated ad, and so people were able to tell very easily. And so this shows how it's starting to become a bigger issue for corporations as well, because AI can't really be trusted if everybody else is using it as their own ideas now and promoting it as their own ideas, because this is basically just plagiarism now.
Thank you, both pro and con. We'll move on to the next set of questions. Pro side, looking ahead, AI is only going to become more common in education. So, what positive changes do you foresee from increased AI use in schools and learning?
Positive effects. In our opening statements, we mentioned that a larger amount of students will be able to understand concepts in school, and I think that is honestly the largest positive effect. We're essentially giving every student access to a 24/7 all subject tutor, and the way that student uses this tutor is of course up to them, and their success does depend on that highly. If it's just as if a student went and hired someone else to write an essay for them that's not benefiting them, it's the same with AI. But if they go to it with a intention to learn and an intention to improve their education, it works and it can help do that. But the fact is it's now available, that tool is available to everybody, as opposed to how it used to be only available to people who could pay and only available at some times and in some institutions and whatever. Now it's available for everyone. And I think that's the main positive effect, is it basically brings education to the masses and brings this educational success to the masses.
Alexis?
Just like we mentioned before and through our argument, AI is a tool of not cognitive retaliation, but a cognitive growth. As you know, it's not an instrument of laziness, but it's a catalyst for, I think, intellectual growth, ideas, growth, personal, and as a whole. But I think AI, the future use of AI as it keeps developing, as I've mentioned before, is developing technology. It can be great. It's not only used, for students, in fields like math, science, or even poetry and stuff like that. But fields that it can also help at the medical fields, the technological fields. AI, it's a catalyst that can really help countries that are dominated as third world countries to be able to become something else. And even though that's far from the topic of the debate, the future use of AI concerning to helping students learn, I think it's going to keep growing. I mean, AI is not going anywhere, and opponent mentioned that Khan Academy exists, but even Khan Academy has implemented AI. In one of the ways they have implemented it is by creating something called Khan Migo, which is an AI tool that students can really chat through or ask questions. When you access this tool, it doesn't give you the answer, and even if you ask the answer for it directly, like I mentioned, there has been parameters created to stop the usage of AI for direct answers. When you reach out to Khan Migo and Khan Academy and ask for direct answers, it doesn't give it to you. It gives you prompts to help solve it. It asks you, for example, what is the first step in this problem? What do you think is the first step? And even if you're wrong, it gives you a step-by-step explanation of why it's wrong and how to get it right. Thank you.
Thank you, pro side. Con side, what risk might arise if AI becomes too dominant in the learning process? Can you guys dig a little bit deeper on what you were saying before?
So I guess one of the risks that could come from AI is that it could lead to a decline in memory. And several studies from Harvard and Stanford have shown that students who do use AI are not actively engaging with the material, which does lead to them having a decline in memory as well. Because when you actively engage with the material, such as work out the problems on your own or take the time to do the problems, you actually force your brain to interact with it and therefore increase your cognitive abilities in determining what is the right answer and what is the wrong answer. And even if you take a while to come up with the right answer, using trial and error is better than using direct prompts from AI to figure things out, because AI is essentially providing a shortcut to learning, which is not how learning is supposed to happen.
Livia, would you like to add anything to that?
I would. I would like to add on talking more about how AI limits critical thinking. When we allow processes to be supplemented or facilitated by external sources, we lose the process of completing it ourselves. When a facilitator such as artificial intelligence takes over work, it no longer becomes the students. It feels less personal and it decreases motivation to complete tasks, and it creates a lack in the sense of accomplishment. So we could see that when instituted in schools more greatly, there could be a lack of sense of accomplishment for students. Like graduating doesn't feel such a great thing because you haven't worked for it. You have allowed something else to do it for you. Additionally, critical thinking skills are necessary for living day-to-day life because we need to be able to handle problems at a moment's notice without turning to a different source, because we can't always turn to AI when it's snap of the moment decisions. Additionally, AI robs people of human experiences. As we see society shift to a more digital community, we see that there has been a decrease in the ability to have social interactions, such as with the COVID pandemic, where humans greatly lost social skills because they were limited to communicating via Zoom, text messages, and they weren't able to get out in the real world and communicate with other people. So this reduced critical thinking and problem solving and lack of emotional intelligence and human interaction will be detrimental to students, and especially to those who may not have access to AI, because while it is free, I know many people who don't even have phones or computers. So although AI itself is free, the technology that you find it on is not always.
Both sides. We're now going to move into discussion and rebuttals. This is where you can respond directly to the other team's points. Pro side, do you have any rebuttals to the con team's argument?
start with just what Vivia just mentioned about AI's effect on social interactions. This and your reference to COVID and things, the decline in social interactions, particularly among Generation Z. This is not something that appeared at the same time as AI. It predates AI. This has been happening for the past 20 some years, where things such as house parties and friend groups are decreasing, becoming smaller. This is a more widespread social phenomenon. This isn't some new thing that correlates with AI. If anything, you could blame it on general technology, the smartphone, something like that, but blaming it on AI, that just simply the timelines don't match up. And I'm also going to go through a couple of the points that were made earlier. The first of which is promotes laziness. I did mention this a little bit earlier, but I'm going to give some more here. The idea that AI promotes laziness, the fact is these students are already lazy. AI is just a form for them to do it. As I think it was Vivia, if I remember correctly, described laziness as almost a character flaw. It's something inherent, and then procrastination is a stress response. If that is the case, neither of those are caused by AI. If anything, AI relieves stress, which doesn't lead it to causing procrastination. And laziness being the character flaw is something with you personally, maybe a personality trait is a way you could describe it. That is unrelated to any outside interactions. That's just something in you as a person. So again, AI cannot be credited with causing that. Thank you.
Does anyone want to speak about that? Rebuttal against that? Or with?
I would like to rebuttal against the fact that laziness is a personality trait. Everyone experiences laziness from time to time. It's inevitable as a human. There will be times where you don't want to do work, whether you're tired or whether you just simply do not want to do a certain assignment. However, AI does promote laziness, and there's been several studies demonstrating that because, like I've said, it is an article from the Modern Scientist has actually stated that choosing the easiest method to complete a task is a hardwired evolutionary trait for survival. Because as humans, we naturally seek out how to do things in the easiest way possible. That's why we have technology constantly evolving, is because we want to make tasks simpler. Because when we have tasks that are simplified, it conserves energy and takes less effort. That's the biological aspect to it, which is why laziness is promoted through AI, is because when we have access to technology such as AI, we have a way to complete a task with less effort. However, it does continue to rob of that concrete experience, as I've mentioned, which is how it promotes laziness, is because instead of doing the work yourself and pushing through the hardness of it, AI promotes laziness. Now, it doesn't mean necessarily that every student will. I understand that each one will take it a different way. However, because it is an option, it is more tempting. It is a temptation. That is what it is. So it does promote laziness by existing as a temptation. Additionally, as for AI decreasing social interaction, I do understand that correlation is not causation and that they do not correlate at the same time. However, it does promote a lack of interaction because, for instance, we've talked about human tutors. If you use AI instead of human tutors, there's one situation in which you are robbed of an experience with a human. Going to the library and finding books or research, if you can do that via AI, there again, we've lost being in the social and real world.
Can I rebut to that? Okay, I believe that the idea of using interaction in this debate is kind of seamlessly doesn't fit into the debate, because the idea of interaction is between two humans. When you correlate and you get together, interaction normally happens. For friends, you don't appear to a friend and ask him what is 2 + 2, but you ask him how his day been, or how he has how was the soccer match, or how was the game. Interaction doesn't really lead directly into the usage of AI for educational purposes. Interaction is mostly a thing that you do with friends. The interaction that you have educationally mostly happens with teachers, and I think so. Therefore, AI shouldn't be impediment for it to cause interaction, because like you pointed out before, COVID happened, but even with COVID happened, the interaction that lacked was interaction as a whole, not just interaction, through educational purposes. And even then, I feel like AI is not really the purpose of stopping interaction. Phones would be a greater cause because we use them to text, we use them to call. We don't really use AI to text or to call, but I think phones really lack the interaction. I also have a question for Masam, if that's possible. Okay. If textbooks and the internet and spell checkers also reduce effort, do we consider those harmful to learning, or do they lead to laziness?
I don't necessarily think they lead to laziness in the same way that AI leads to laziness, because students are able to evaluate from like what book they got the information, or for example from what resource online they were able to have the information. There's still the process of finding information, which challenges their brain. The AI just gives you the information without sources usually, which leads to a lack of cognitive ability. In addition to that, I also wanted to rebut on the social interaction point. I feel like the AI does basically reduce social interaction. I would like largely disagree with the fact that it doesn't, because personal experience here, I always like turn to my friends, or they always turn to me whenever we have questions about an assignment, whenever there's something we're just stuck on or trying to solve. We yes, we do talk about other like things like extracurriculars, but I do think that a lot of people turn to their peers when they need help on homework assignments. And so AI causes them to rely less on their friends and more on AI. And AI isn't necessarily always going to know what your exact homework assignment is. Meanwhile, your friends or peers who have been in the same classroom and same environment with you might be able to help you better understand, because they know exactly what the assignment is or what the specific situation the teacher is inquiring about is. And so AI might give you unrelated answers or the incorrect answers. In addition to that, it does, when you do turn to AI instead of your friends, that is a reduction of social interaction.
This is for the pro side. Critics say that AI makes students dependent and weakens critical thinking. What's your response?
I think the better way to describe that is the misuse of AI weakens critical thinking. AI can be used in many different ways, as we've established. This idea that it is always used for cheating, or that is what we're arguing against. The fact is, students can use AI for many different ways and for many different purposes. If a student does use AI to cheat repeatedly, to write their essays for them and whatnot, and they just copy and paste, obviously that does weaken their critical thinking. But there is no room in this debate for that type of behavior. What I'm supporting is more refined uses of AI to, as Divya has used it, to break down problems that you don't understand, or to provide sources, things along those lines, not to just go out and write things for you. I mean, I agree in that situation, it does weaken your critical thinking. But the idea that AI 100% of the time in any use in any way does that and has that effect, that's not accurate. The misuse of AI by these students, who likely would cheat either way. If they had access to AI, they would cheat with AI. If they don't have access to AI, they'll cheat another way. Obviously, their critical thinking is being damaged. Thank you.
That was a very strong argument. Thank you for that, Henry. Alexis, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah. Ed, I don't think AI, like we have argued, or well, I don't think, according to research, AI does not make students dependent or hinder critical thinking. Instead, it enhances learning by giving in-depth explanations. I think we highly into the debate missed the idea that AI, like we have mentioned, is a tool that whether you do it all for you, or whether you don't use it and do it all yourself. But the reality is that cheating is not a new thing. Students have found ways to cheat throughout history. If it was with books, if it was with Google, AI is not really the new, and cheating is not the new thing forward by AI. It's a thing that we have teachers have deal with for I feel like the beginning of the education system. By evaluating and refining AI-generated ideas, students practice analysis. they help themselves think critically by problem solving and creativity. Turning AI into a tool that strengthens rather than replaces their cognitive skills, I think is the way the student is designed to be used for. And maybe the con will argue that most students won't use it for that. But if we're going to personal history, personal stories, or experiences in my school, for example, there are, when we submit an assignment, it goes directly into an AI program that makes sure that we either have not plagiarized or used directly AI on the whole thing. So experiences depend or vary on by each debate on this debate. But for my experience, if we're talking about experiences, it's really hard for me to get away with just using AI to write or do things for me when there's parameters or things that teachers use to make sure that I don't just use AI to do my work, but rather as a critical thinking skill or tool that I can have in my toolbox to be able to help me grow better. Thank you.
On side, some argue that AI enhances learning if used correctly. How do you respond?
I do believe AI can enhance learning if used properly. The issue is that we are tempted to use it in a way that isn't helpful. AI makes it easier for students to avoid the intellectual work of internalizing. So while it can be a great source of information in terms of breaking things down and helping us to understand maybe core values or general ideas, students that isn't going to be the primary use of it, because responsible use of technology is a difficult thing to occur in any situation. And that occurs with other technologies as well, where we see there are incorrect uses of it. And AI just makes it more likely that students will use it incorrectly because of its nature. It can complete tasks for you, and that is tempting.
Masa, would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, I would like to add that yes, I do believe that AI can be used for good and that there's a lot of good that can come from AI. For example, like using AI for inspiration or using it to help you better understand problems step by step. However, as Olivia said, it becomes more of a temptation over time because it can provide the answers so easily. It does not require you to basically search for the answers on your own. That does not promote cognitive skills, and so that does lead to decline in critical thinking skills. Something that also isn't really talked about much is research skills, because the ability to look through different sources and see like the author of the source, or like what company or corporate organization wrote this article, or where did this article come from. That is all part of research skills, being able to identify the validity and the accuracy of a source is really important. And because AI just essentially takes the main topics and ideas from each source without citing that source, it doesn't really promote research skills. And that's why I believe that AI in general, while it can provide good, is also negative in that aspect, because it's giving you answers so easily and simplifying them in such a simplistic way that it does undermine the credibility of original sources and also the process of evaluating those sources.
Thank you, both sides. Can either side share a real life or school example where AI either helped or hindered learning?
Like I said, going back to our research for our extended essay, that was an instance of when AI was being used for good. And then another instance was for a chemistry project we had last year, where students had to prepare a 5-minute presentation about a famous chemist of their choice. And so majority of students obviously did use AI to generate their prompts and uh, basically their main arguments for the debate. And so I know myself included and some of my friends, we were able to use AI to find information quickly and all of that. However, I did realize that after we did find information, we had trouble finding sources for the information, because we were also required to cite the sources. Obviously, that's a main requirement of most assignments. And so we found that because AI provided those answers so easily, we haven't been able to evaluate the sources and figure out from which source AI came from. And so that did make it more difficult to complete the assignment, because now we had to go back to each point and a source of information and tried to evaluate whether we could use it or not.
Would anyone else like to add anything? Answer the question.
I've used AI to research to get evidence, especially data numbers type of evidence for essays and things like that. And every time I ask for a list of evidence a list of evidence, I'll ask it to cite its sources. If I am asking for a data set, a table, something along those lines, I always ask it to cite its sources, and I'll click on the sources, and if it lines up, then it lines up. And because sometimes AI, mistakenly attributes things, but as long as that lines up and those numbers work, it saves so much time, and that's the primary reason I use it. It simply saves time. It's not like the evidence is any lower quality. The fact is, this is the evidence I would have used anyways. It just helped me find it faster. So that's how I usually use it.
Alexis or Vivia, would you guys like to answer the question?
Yeah, related to what Edward was saying, when I use AI, because I feel like all of us have used it, or at least I have, to be able to prompt my ideas or to prompt ideas for projects or essays and stuff like that. And I get to the point where I ask for research, and it's, normally AI gives you like slashes or dots or stuff like that, and it gives it to you. If I need in-depth knowledge about the topic, I can either ask AI or I can go ahead and type, can you give me the research link for this study for this thing? So because AI doesn't provide it originally when you ask for it, doesn't mean it's not able to provide it. It means that it's your decision whether you would like to ask for it or not. And to answer the question, in my school we have group projects very often, and what we do, we use AI to be able to prompt ideas. Again, like the main, especially when you are in a group project and you have different people with different ideas and different brains, it's kind of hard to come up with one idea that all of you will agree on to develop a project. But when you use AI to be able to prompt the cognitive thinking, you're able to reduce those ideas. So from 8 ideas that all of us would have, now we have 5 ideas that ChatGPT or any other AI tool develop. Which one do we like the most that we can further develop on? Thank you.
Lydia, would you like to say something?
I would. I'd like to talk about both positive and negative experiences I've had with AI. So to begin, as an IB student, I take a theory of knowledge class, which is very debate heavy. And for one of our debates, I was talking with a classmate who had used ChatGPT to generate the notes, which was a required assignment that we had taken notes on a variety of texts before the discussion. When we went into the debate, the teacher asked that you leave your notes behind. When we were actually doing the debate, this student was very quiet and wasn't able to contribute very much because using AI to create the notes for him cost him learning about it himself. Because when you read through and annotate sources, you gain that knowledge in the form of memory. However, because he used AI to generate the notes, he lost that experience, and because of that, he was robbed from experiencing the debate. However, I've also had positive experiences with AI. Like previously today, when I was working in math, I didn't understand what the assignment was asking me. I didn't know how to approach it. So I went to AI to kind of reword what the question was asking and reframe it. And I found that very useful. And then I want to elaborate on an experience that was a bit of an in-between, I guess you could say. I was in a biology project with one other student about genes, and we had to create a drawing, or we could use AI to generate a creation of what both of our genes would look like. At the time, we used AI, which I had thought was very great that we had access to it because neither of us were good artists. But looking back on it, I wonder if I was robbed of an artistic experience or a chance to improve at my art skills, because I know that's not my strongest area. And perhaps if I had done the assignment myself, I could have improved and worked upon that skill.
Does anyone else want to add anything else before we dive into conclusions? All right, so we're going to go ahead and go into conclusions now. Closing statements, that is. Pro side, can we hear your final thoughts?
Okay, I'll start. I would just like to restate my initial arguments, and that is AI provides all students with an access to personalized learning, personalized 24/7 tutor. And if AI is used correctly, it can benefit students, it can help them better understand topics. I have a quote here from, it is from Urbe University. It says, AI has the potential to revolutionize personalized learning. With AI-powered algorithms, educational platforms can tailor learning materials and activities to meet the individual needs of each student. By analyzing data on students' progress, strengths, and weaknesses, AI systems can adapt the curriculum to ensure optimal learning outcomes for each student. This personalized approach enhances student engagement, boosts motivation, and maximizes learning potential. And I have one more quote. Apologies, from Harvard University Press, which says, we need to shift the narrative not by asking how we can fit AI into education, but by starting with the end goal. What learning outcomes do we want to achieve, and can AI meaningfully contribute to them? And I would just like to leave you all with the idea that yes, AI can meaningfully contribute to them as long as it is used wisely and in a beneficial way. It can help students better understand topics and better excel in education. Thank you.
Alexis?
In conclusion, AI tools like ChatGPT represent a remarkable step forward in the evolution of education. Just like calculators mentioned before or computers once did, other technological innovations have transformed learning, and AI is doing that so now. AI offers new opportunities to make education more accessible, equitable, and effective by providing personal support, step-by-step guidance, and 24/7 help at no cost. AI help close the bridge and the gaps caused by financial inequality and teacher shortages, ensuring that every student has the resources they need to succeed. Research such as Benjamin Bloom's that shows the two stigma problem, that shows that one-to-one ratio of help can move the student two deviations on the standard deviation graph. It shows that immense benefit. It shows the immense benefits of one-on-one guidance. And AI brings that kind of tailored support to scale provisionally unimaginable ideas, such as developing ideas, such as being a tool to be able to help you or guide you. AI is not a tool. AI is a tool that could be misused, but it's a tool that has helped many students around the world. It's not a tool that has directly affected them, and it's a tool that continues to thrive in today's modern world. In short, AI is not a shortcut. It's a catalyst for learning, understanding, and opportunity. Thank you.
Masa, would you like to give your conclusion?
Yes, so to conclude, I believe that AI can provide both advantageous and disadvantageous benefits. It can inspire students, it can provide a good guidance for students when it comes to working out problems step by step and coming to conclusions very quickly and in a timely manner. However, I believe that because AI is such a simplistic tool to use, oftentimes students will tend to misuse AI instead of using it in ways to inspire. They will tend to use AI in ways to basically complete assignments very quickly and to basically just plagiarize. And so that's why I think that AI does promote laziness among students. It does reduce social interaction, and that AI is in general just used as a shortcut and does stifle creativity because it decreases engagement with the actual learning material, and it causes students to basically just refer to AI as a cheat code or a cheat sheet for their assignments.
Lydia, would you like to give your closing statement?
Yes, I would. So I would just like to say that AI itself is not evil. It is a technology and it is a tool that can be harnessed by several different individuals. However, we do need to understand the risk that is associated with it. And I do believe that it is more harmful than good when implemented into education. Technology is dependent on both the individual and society. It's influenced by societal need, which led us to the development of AI. However, those with power directly control how it is instituted and who can access it. It is limited by who can utilize it and who creates it. And I'd like to do a quote from Hardcastle saying that her biggest concern is what she calls the atrophy of epistemic vigilance, which is the ability to independently verify, challenge, and construct knowledge without the help of algorithms. While they do provide a source of information, they do create a difficulty in terms of developing critical thinking skills, research skills, and social skills, and several other related. So I just want to re-elaborate on how it promotes laziness because, like I've said, AI is a fantastic tool when used properly. However, its ability to promote laziness and create an easy way out for students has caused more and more students to be robbed of learning experiences. Because while it is true that students have cheated, and that is a historical effect of required schooling, um, it as a temptation, it is more likely that students will find that as an easier way out than other options, which, while cheating could produce more effective skills.
Thank you both sides for a thoughtful discussion. Today, we've seen that AI tools like ChatGPT can be incredibly useful, but they also have drawbacks. They make learning faster and more accessible, yet they might reduce independent thinking and problem solving if overused. The key takeaway: using AI wisely as a tool and not a shortcut can help students learn effectively without replacing the effort that real learning requires. I'm Annalise Ramirez, and this concludes our debate. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Side, do you think too much trust in AI could make students less careful or critical when evaluating information?
I think that AI can definitely make students less critical in evaluating information because AI, what it does basically is that it basically takes information from a bunch of sources online and compiles it into a smaller summary or a shorter form for students to better understand. And the problem is that when it does this, it might sift through inaccurate information or inaccurate studies. So I feel like it's much more beneficial for students to actually go through websites on their own and evaluate on their own whether this website is a valid or credible source, rather than having AI compile information from websites like Wikipedia, which are known for being inaccurate, into a summary, which then leads to that summary being inaccurate. In addition, when students do their own research, it promotes their own creativity and their own critical thinking skills. And there's also other resources like YouTube videos, or for example, Khan Academy, which can be used as better resources that promote more critical thinking among students rather than AI. Because AI can make personalized summaries for students, but it's much more common that students will not use that shortened summary for good. And in addition, that shortened summary could also be inaccurate because it takes from possibly inaccurate sources. So when you look through each source on your own, you can actually be able to determine whether that source is a valid source.
Vivian, would you like to add on to that?
I would. First, I'd like to talk about the stages in which bias in AI can be introduced. It can be introduced in data collection, which is often where it originates, because if the data used to train an AI algorithm is not diverse or representative, the output will reflect these biases. So that can start as soon as the programming. Data labeling, the process of labeling training data can also introduce bias because human annotators may have different interpretations of the same data. So that's more human bias being put into AI bias. Model training, that's works the same way, but with all these steps, there is human bias, which the con side could argue, as has argued, that humans also introduce bias through teachers or tutors. However, we're more aware of humans introducing bias because we understand that other humans have different perspectives from us. However, because AI is technology and we often consider robots and automation to be emotionless and thoughtless, we often forget that it can have bias as well. Additionally, deployment, even if the creators of an AI attempt to be as unbiased as possible, AI can, upon being deployed, can be influenced by its users. and the creation of echo chambers, which I've talked about, in which what you ask of AI will be reflected and it'll become accumulated to what you want to know, and that can limit the diversity of what you know, and it creates a limit. Sorry, uh, it creates a barrier to how far you can expand your knowledge.
Thank you, both sides. We'll move on to the next set of questions. Pro side, can AI actually boost creativity by giving students ideas and inspiration? Thank you, both pro and con. We'll move on to the next set of questions. Pro side, looking ahead, AI is only going to become more common in education. So, what positive changes do you foresee from increased AI use in schools and learning? Alexis? Both sides. We're now going to move into discussion and rebuttals. This is where you can respond directly to the other team's points. Pro side, do you have any rebuttals to the con team's argument?